On New Year's Eve, pregnant, I was abandoned on the street by Robert Davis, who went to watch lavish fireworks display with his female assistant. I terminated the pregnancy and got a divorce, but he called me vicious. Later, he begged me to come back, saying he couldn't live without me. But where was he when he broke my fingers and force-fed me shellfish I was allergic to? Now he's kneeling on the ground, crying and begging for forgiveness. It's too late. On New Year's Eve, Robert Davis left me, pregnant, on the side of the road to spend the night with his female assistant. The assistant in the passenger seat feigned concern, telling him to bring me along. Robert Davis looked at me, shivering in the cold. Liv has been doing well lately. I want to spend New Year's Eve properly with her. You're pregnant, so you shouldn't come. Besides, you don't understand this kind of romance. I'm not coming home tonight. Don't disturb Liv and me. I watched the $1 million fireworks display Robert Davis put on for Olivia Jensen behind me, and walked alone to the hospital to terminate the pregnancy. From now on, I wouldn't need to beg Robert Davis to accompany me to prenatal appointments anymore. I walked towards the hospital, my hand on my belly. After terminating the pregnancy, when I woke up again, I looked at the fireworks blooming outside the window, my vision blurring. My poor unborn child, who never got to see how beautiful the fireworks outside were. A young nurse behind me said enviously, "Those are the $1 million fireworks Mr. Davis of Davis Corporation sent for his girlfriend. They've been going for 5 whole hours. It's so romantic." In our 10 years together, Robert Davis had never set off fireworks for me. He would always say dismissively, "What's the point of something that only lasts a few minutes, Sarah? You're such a spendthrift." Robert Davis never knew how much I loved fireworks. He was the one who truly didn't understand romance. ICA. Led Professor Thompson. "Professor, you mentioned taking me abroad for further study last time. I've decided. I'll go." My mentor said excitedly, "Sarah, with your piano talent, you should have been a leader in the music world long ago." It's a shame. It was a shame that because of Robert Davis, I gave up piano and became a stay-at-home wife, no longer touching the keys. I never imagined that after marriage, my life with Robert Davis would bring me hurt after hurt. After a week of rest in the hospital, I was discharged and went home. Unexpectedly, Robert Davis was home. After all, he worked during the day and spent evenings with Olivia Jensen, so he hadn't been home in a long time. He saw me and snorted dismissively. "You finally decided to come back. Just because I spent New Year's Eve with Liv, you threw a fit and didn't come home. Were you waiting for me to call and beg you to come back?" I looked at Robert Davis and explained, "No, I was in the hospital these past few days." Robert Davis froze for a moment, then asked angrily, "Why didn't you tell me?" After all, in the past, even if Robert Davis didn't reply to my messages, I would tell him my daily schedule. I didn't look at Robert Davis. I forgot. Seeing my cold attitude, Robert Davis got angry. "So what if I didn't spend New Year's Eve with you? I've spent it with you so many times, but this is the only time I've spent it with Liv." I sneered. "Robert Davis, we haven't spent New Year's Eve together any year." First, Robert Davis used work as an excuse. Later, he was out carousing with friends, leaving me alone at home waiting for him to return. He himself had forgotten that we had never spent New Year's Eve together. Robert Davis seemed to finally remember and hugged me remorsefully. "I'm sorry. After the baby is born, I'll spend every New Year's Eve with you." I had waited 10 years for New Year's Eve with him, but I didn't need him anymore. I didn't speak to Robert Davis again. ND went to the piano room to practice, only to find it in a mess and my piano damaged. This piano was bought by my mother with all her savings. After her death, it became the most important thing to me. Robert Davis walked in and said casually, "Liv thought it was fun last time and accidentally broke it." Looking at how the piano was damaged, it was clear it was done on purpose. Robert Davis knew how important this piano was to me. Anyone else touching it would make me furious. Seeing my dark expression, Robert Davis said disdainfully, "It's just a crappy piano. Liv broke it, I'll pay you back. Do you have to give me such a look?" I opened the piano. The keys were damaged and uneven. There was also a pair of pink ribbon underwear on top. Robert Davis quickly snatched the underwear, guiltily saying, "Liv forgot to take it last time. Nothing happened between us, don't misunderstand." Seeing the underwear on the piano, I knew they had even done that on my piano. Looking at Robert Davis, I just felt disgusted. Perhaps feeling guilty and uneasy, Robert Davis took my hand to change the subject. "Sarah, I'll go with you to your prenatal appointments." But he forgot I had just returned from the hospital and didn't need prenatal appointments. Robert Davis had also never asked what happened to me during that week in the hospital. And this was the first time Robert Davis had ever offered to go to a prenatal appointment with me. Usually, when I asked Robert Davis to accompany me, he would refuse, citing work, and scold me for being difficult, saying I was adding to his burden when he was so busy. But I just wanted to be like other pregnant women, with my husband by my side. I would have been overjoyed if Robert Davis had accompanied me even once. Now that the baby was gone, I no longer expected Robert Davis to accompany me to prenatal appointments. Robert Davis touched my belly, looking puzzled. "Why have you lost weight? That's bad for the baby. I'll find a nutritionist in a few days to cook you delicious meals." I shook my head and looked at Robert Davis. "Robert Davis, there's no need. The baby is all ready." Before I could finish, Robert Davis's phone rang. Robert Davis quickly picked up his phone and walked away. When he came back, just as I expected, he was leaving again. "There's an urgent matter at the company. Go to your prenatal appointment by yourself this time." After all, if Olivia Jensen called, he would definitely leave. I had tried to make him stay before, but he never did and only became more annoyed with me. My stomach suddenly cramped. It was a post-abortion symptom. Seeing me clutching my stomach, looking in pain, Robert Davis frowned. "Sarah, can you stop using these tricks to deceive me? Do you think just because you're pregnant, I should revolve around you all the time?" With that, Robert Davis slammed the door and left. I took the medicine the doctor prescribed from my bag and slept for a while until the pain eased. When I woke up, I checked my phone and saw Olivia Jensen had posted on social media. "My boss is so sweet, my period came and my stomach hurt. He rushed right to my side." I found it laughable. It turned out I was worth less than a female assistant in Robert Davis's eyes. However, the next moment, Robert Davis actually called me. I thought it might be a rare moment of concern, but he anxiously asked, "Sarah, what brand of sanitary pads do you usually use?" That idiot Liv forgot to buy sanitary pads. My heart clenched. Robert Davis was actually going to buy sanitary pads for another woman. One time, my period came unexpectedly, and there was a large stain of blood on my white pants. I didn't have sanitary pads, and the blood stain was very obvious. I begged Robert Davis to go to the supermarket to buy some for me. Robert Davis looked disgusted. "You want me, a man, to buy sanitary pads for you? How disgusting is that? I'd be so embarrassed if anyone saw me." But now, Robert Davis wasn't blaming anyone, only showing concern for Olivia Jensen. Robert Davis continued to ask anxiously, "Also, do girls get particularly bad cramps when they have their period? Poor Liv. Do you have any ways to relieve it? Do I need to buy medicine for her? Or hot tea? Should I get a heating pad too?" Robert Davis was so worried about Olivia Jensen being uncomfortable. He hadn't even been that concerned about me when I was pregnant. I found so many years of love ridiculous. Can't you Google it? With that, I hung up the phone and ignored Robert Davis. However, the next morning, Robert Davis called me again early, saying angrily, "Sarah, you're getting bolder. You dare hang up on me. Now I'm giving you a chance. Come over and cook for Liv, and I'll forgive you. Oh, and Liv loves your homemade barbecue ribs. Remember to make them." Hearing that, my heart suddenly ached. I finally understood why Robert Davis had started enjoying the meals I brought him for a while. Especially the homemade barbecue ribs. I thought Robert Davis liked homemade barbecue ribs, so I practiced until my hands were calloused and blistered from the oil splatters. It turned out Olivia Jensen loved them, and that's why he made me cook. I wiped the tears from my eyes. Robert Davis, any chef can cook better than me. Why do you insist on me? Robert Davis ordered. Liv said she specifically wants yours. You have to come today. Robert Davis hung up. I took the divorce papers and went to Olivia Jensen's place. It was time for things between Robert Davis and me to end. Olivia Jensen said to me apologetically, I just suddenly wanted Sarah's homemade barbecue ribs. Sarah, dear, you're pregnant now, and the cooking fumes aren't good for the baby, but Mr. Davis insisted on getting you to cook for me. Olivia Jensen's tone was full of Robert Davis's favoritism towards her, and I felt like their maid. I ignored Olivia Jensen and placed an agreement in front of Robert Davis. Robert Davis, sign this and I'll cook. Robert Davis didn't even look closely at what the agreement was before signing it. I asked him, aren't you afraid it's a divorce agreement? Robert Davis sneered, so what? Is that more important than Liv being happy? Besides, you're pregnant. You wouldn't dare divorce me. Who else would want you besides me? Seeing his indifferent attitude, I didn't say anything and went into the kitchen to start cooking. This was the last time I would cook for Robert Davis. Robert Davis used to love my cooking, but I don't know when he started to dislike it. Robert Davis and Olivia Jensen's laughter from the living room drifted in, grating on my ears. After finishing the meal, my weak body was so tired I almost fainted. Robert Davis looked at me without concern, instead blaming me. You almost fainted just from cooking? Pregnancy sure makes you delicate. Liv has her period and still goes to work at the company without complaining. You stay at home all day. Could you possibly be as tired as she is? No matter how much I sacrificed, Robert Davis only had eyes for Olivia Jensen. Olivia Jensen came up to support me and said, Sarah, dear, you worked hard. Your clothes are dirty. Let me take you to a room to change. Olivia Jensen led me to her room, where a dozen condoms were scattered on the floor. Olivia Jensen blushed and explained to me, oh, my boyfriend is just too rough. Sarah, dear, is Mr. Davis that good to you too? My face turned cold. No wonder Olivia Jensen wanted to bring me in here to change. She wanted me to see this. I had always thought Robert Davis was just too tired from work. It turned out he simply didn't want to be intimate with me. Every time I made a suggestion, he would just call me disgusting. Even getting pregnant was an accident after Robert Davis got drunk. Looking at the condoms scattered everywhere, I sneered, Miss Jensen, maybe you should worry about that frequency, about your boyfriend's future. Olivia Jensen's face immediately darkened. Back at the dining table, Robert Davis kept serving food to Olivia Jensen. They looked. Liv, eat more. Olivia Jensen cooed at Robert Davis, Mr. Davis, you spoil me too much. How can there be such a wonderful boss like you? Olivia Jensen put a large spoonful of shellfish into my bowl. Thank you for cooking for me today, Sarah, dear. I didn't touch my chopsticks for a long time. Olivia Jensen started crying, looking wronged. Did I upset you, Sarah? Why aren't you eating? Robert Davis's face darkened. He stared at me and gave me a hard slap. Sarah, don't push your luck. Then Robert Davis grabbed my head and force-fed me all the shellfish. I couldn't even resist. By the time Robert Davis was done, my body was covered in dense red rashes. Robert Davis had once vowed to remember my shellfish allergy and ensure I never touched it. Now, it was he who was forcing it into my mouth. Olivia Jensen, whose face had been smiling, suddenly looked scared. Mr. Davis, Sarah looks so scary. Does she have some kind of awful infection? Seeing the rash on my body, Robert Davis grabbed me with disgust and pushed me out the door. Sarah, you're disgusting. Robert Davis kicked me away. Don't contaminate Liv's place. I grabbed Robert Davis's pants leg, gasping for air. Robert Davis, call an ambulance. Please. The only response was the sound of the door closing. Fortunately, a kind person got me to the hospital in time. I went to the front desk alone to pick up my medicine and ran into Robert Davis and Olivia Jensen. Robert Davis glanced at me dismissively. Olivia Jensen, beside him, said to me boastfully, I told Mr. Davis it was just a small scratch, but he insisted on bringing me here to get it bandaged, worried about infection. Robert Davis said tenderly, is that a small scratch? It was bleeding. But when I had my miscarriage, Robert Davis didn't know how much pain I was in. Robert Davis on me and said irritably, "It's just an allergy, and you're staying in the hospital for so long." Fortunately, he didn't know I had already terminated the pregnancy, or he would have done something even worse. He said condescendingly, "Fine, I'll go with you to your prenatal appointment." Robert Davis didn't wait for me to reply and went to register. Left alone with Olivia Jensen, she sneered, "Mr. Davis is really good to you. But if he was really good to you, he wouldn't have watched fireworks with me and stayed at my place. Sarah, you can't beat me. Mr. Davis loves me now. He's long been tired of you, an old woman whose looks have faded because of pregnancy. Mr. Davis even said your stretch marks are ugly and he finds them disgusting every time he sees them." My mind went blank for a moment. I never thought Robert Davis saw me that way. The stretch marks Robert Davis found disgusting were the only trace of our child left in this world. Olivia Jensen gave me a provocative smile, then slapped herself twice and cried, "Sarah, dear, I didn't seduce Mr. Davis. Please don't hit me. I'll stay away from Mr. Davis from now on and won't be in your way." Robert Davis, who had just left, immediately turned back when he heard the crying. Seeing Olivia Jensen wronged, he looked like he would give his life for her. Robert Davis glared at me fiercely and kicked me in the stomach. "Sarah, is this how you bully Liv when I'm not around? Liv and I are just colleagues." It really takes a twisted mind to see everything as dirty. I fell to my knees in pain, my lower abdomen throbbing. There was a hint of blood flowing beneath me. Robert Davis didn't feel it was enough to vent his anger. He stepped on my back, making me lie face down on the ground. "Sarah, apologize to Liv." Olivia Jensen shot me a triumphant look. Seeing me in such a pathetic state, Robert Davis became even more aggressive and stepped on my hand. He knew how important my hands were to me, since I studied piano. In the first few years we were together, Robert Davis would apply hand lotion to my hands almost every day to protect them. He said, "Sarah's hands are meant to become those of a great pianist someday. You must take good care of them." Looking at my hand being stepped on by his foot, I just felt it was ridiculous. "Robert Davis, just let me go." Robert Davis put more pressure on my hand. Hearing the sound of bone cracking, I still lowered my head and cried out to Olivia Jensen, "I'm sorry." Only then did Robert Davis move his foot, satisfied. "This is just a lesson for you. If you bully Liv again, I won't let you off the hook." Watching Robert Davis's receding back, my heart completely died. A few days later, I stood outside the airport and left with Professor Thompson. Before leaving, I sent Robert Davis one last message. "Robert Davis, I'm leaving. All the best to you and Olivia Jensen." Studying abroad with Professor Thompson was the happiest time of my life. Robert Davis used to hate it when I played the piano at home, so I rarely played the one there, afraid of upsetting him. Gradually, my desire to play the piano diminished. But this time, I rediscovered myself through the sound of the piano, finding the young girl who once loved playing. I was no longer the timid, stay-at-home wife. Robert Davis had once promised me, "Sarah, stop playing the piano. I'll support you in the future. All you need to do is be my support at home." I believed him, but Robert Davis started to resent me for being useless and lazy. After a performance, I turned on my phone, which I had kept off. I found that Robert Davis had only sent me messages a month after I disappeared. "Robert Davis, Sarah, what do you mean? Why did the lawyer say we're divorced? What kind of game are you playing? Stop sulking and come home." Seeing that I didn't reply for a long time, Robert Davis called me hundreds of times. "Answer the phone. Stop throwing a fit. Okay. I give up. I bought you a new piano. Stop being mad. I'm not ignoring you. I'm preparing the nursery for our baby. Can you please come back?" Robert Davis sent a picture of a nursery, full of baby items. It was clear whoever decorated it put a lot of thought into it. But Robert Davis still didn't know that our child was long gone. Robert Davis called again. I was about to decline the call but accidentally answered. Robert Davis's accusing voice came through. Sarah, are you done throwing your tantrums yet? My patience has its limits. You'd better come home immediately. It's just a few days I went on vacation with Liv. What are you sulking about this time? Liv is an outstanding employee at the company. It's not like I was only with her. Robert Davis said it with self-righteousness. I sneered. Robert Davis, you're quite the boss. Is rewarding outstanding employees sleeping with them? Caught red-handed, Robert Davis became furious. Sarah, you're a woman too. Don't you know spreading malicious rumors about a woman can ruin her life? I sent Robert Davis a few photos. Robert Davis, I've always known. Stop pretending. We're already divorced. Stop looking for me. Robert Davis was silent for a moment, then frantically backpedaled. I just made a mistake that any man in the world could make. That's no reason for you to throw a fit. And about me cheating, didn't you ever think about your own reasons? I didn't sign any divorce papers. We can't get divorced. Don't try to trick me this way. I reminded him, Robert Davis, you were the one who said, as long as I cooked for Olivia Jensen, you'd even sign the divorce papers. Robert Davis looked stunned. No, I was just kidding. I thought it was just a regular contract. This divorce doesn't count. You can't divorce me. Hurry up and come back, or I'll come get you myself. You still have our baby in your belly. I don't believe you actually dare to leave me. Looking at my empty belly, tears welled up in my eyes. Baby? Robert Davis, our child was gone the day you were with Olivia Jensen watching fireworks. Robert Davis froze, his voice hoarse. Impossible. How could you bear to terminate our child? That was a life too, Sarah. How could you be so vicious? I hung up on Robert Davis, tears streaming down my face. He knew I was pregnant, yet he made me cook for Olivia Jensen, allowed Olivia Jensen to slap me, forced me to eat shellfish causing a severe allergic reaction, and kicked me in the stomach. He cheated on me while I was pregnant and blamed everything on me. I thought, a man like that doesn't deserve to be a father. However, I didn't expect Robert Davis to actually come abroad to find me. Robert Davis dragged me off the stage in front of everyone. Robert Davis's hand squeezed me tightly. Sarah, come home with me. What's so good about this crappy piano? Do you think you can amount to something by playing this broken thing? I gave you money to live well at home, eating and drinking, but you insisted on coming out here to suffer, didn't you? Robert Davis would never understand how much the piano meant to me. He rarely showed me a good face in front of others, often scolding me publicly and making me lose face. Those performing with me looked on, and the audience was confused. Robert Davis didn't care and held on to me tightly. Just as he was about to drag me away, a friend I was performing with punched Robert Davis. Sarah doesn't want to go. Don't touch her. Robert Davis, do you really think we don't know the awful things you've done? A disgusting scumbag like you deserves to go to hell. If I were Sarah, I would never forgive you in this lifetime. Sarah gave up piano for you. How did you treat her? Do you know how important the piano is to her? Did you ever support her pursuing something she loved? Robert Davis's face turned red from what my younger friend said. She's my wife. You have no right to comment on our matters. Robert Davis looked at me, surrounded by younger friends. Sarah, come here. I took a step forward. My younger friend looked at me, disappointed. Sarah, you. I looked at Robert Davis. Let's talk after my performance, okay? Will you stay and watch my performance? Robert Davis nodded grumpily. I returned to the stage. When the piece finished, the audience erupted in applause. Robert Davis watched me on stage. Even after everyone had left, he was still in a daze. Robert Davis once told me that the first time he saw me, it was the way I played the piano that deeply attracted him. That was when he fell in love with me. I walked over and sat next to Robert Davis. Robert Davis, it's time for us to end this. Robert Davis looked at me affectionately. Sarah, we can still go back. I won't stop you from playing the piano anymore. Come home with me, okay? I was wrong. I was really wrong. I shook my head, refusing Robert Davis. You should leave. I don't want to see you. The pain he had inflicted on me would always be a scar on my heart. Robert Davis held my hand, reluctant to let go. His remorseful expression didn't seem fake. Sarah, if you're not leaving here, then I'll stay here with you. I want to make it up to you and our deceased child. As he spoke, Robert Davis's phone rang. Robert Davis hung up, but the person kept calling incessantly. Robert Davis clicked his tongue in annoyance but answered the call. A girl's crying voice came from the other end, making Robert Davis frown repeatedly. After hanging up, Robert Davis looked at me hesitantly. Liv, she got into a car accident. I sneered. Go be with her. Robert Davis looked at me guiltily. Sarah, wait for me here. I'll be back soon to be with you. With that, Robert Davis left in a hurry. I went back and submitted my resignation to Professor Thompson. I wanted to go to a remote, unstable region to be a music teacher. Professor Thompson tried to persuade me. That place is very dangerous. You shouldn't risk your life just to avoid Robert Davis. Looking at the joints Robert Davis had broken on my hand, I shook my head. No, I just want to bring music to those children. To give them a glimmer of warmth in their painful childhoods. Besides, I know you've heard that my technique isn't what it used to be, Professor. I don't want to hold you back either. Hearing my words, Professor Thompson knew I was determined and didn't try to stop me anymore. During the 3 years in that country, I lived each day on the edge. The children there loved my music. Music, like a flower of hope in the children's hearts, brought hope to their lives. One day, I was walking on the street when someone suddenly recognized me. Are you Sarah Miller? I looked at the person and remembered he was David, one of Robert Davis's brothers. David looked at me in surprise. Sarah, do you know Robert Davis has been searching for you like crazy these past few years? In recent years, I hadn't paid attention to any news about Robert Davis, though sometimes when I thought of him, there was still a faint ache in my heart. David also told me about Olivia Jensen. Initially, Robert Davis found you with the orchestra, but Olivia Jensen lied to him and said she was pregnant with his child. I was stunned. I had thought Robert Davis was telling the truth when he said Olivia Jensen had a car accident. So, Robert Davis went back to see Olivia Jensen and her child. No wonder he was so concerned. But now, none of that mattered. He continued, it turned out Robert Davis had Olivia Jensen checked, and she wasn't pregnant at all. When he learned you had left the orchestra, he was so furious he used every means to torment Olivia Jensen until she was ruined, constantly hounded by debt collectors. Last time, someone released a video. Olivia Jensen was actually fighting with dogs for food. David looked at my expression. He thought I would be happy, but I wasn't. It was as if none of it concerned me. David tried to persuade me. I know you hate Robert Davis, but he's not doing well at all these days. Every time he gets drunk, he calls your name. He's bought over a dozen pianos waiting for you to come back. And about your unborn child. Robert Davis sleeps every night holding the clothes he bought for your baby. He's been tormented to the point of madness. Sarah, Robert Davis really knows he was wrong. As his brother, I truly can't bear to see him like this. I knew he wanted to persuade me to go back to Robert Davis. I shook my head, having seen through everything. I don't want to see him. And you don't understand how much pain Robert Davis caused me back then. If you did, you'd only think my life was truly miserable because of him. I won't forgive him. Not in this lifetime. Seeing my resolute attitude, David didn't try to persuade me further. He finally patted my shoulder. Sarah, since you don't want to see him, I won't tell him you're here. I wish you peace and happiness. After David left, I played the piece Robert Davis and I heard when we first met. I had moved on from Robert Davis. Hearing about his current state of deep affection, I felt no ripple in my heart, only found it ridiculous. Robert Davis tormenting Olivia Jensen was like him trying to prove he no longer loved her, but me. But when I needed his love the most, Robert Davis wasn't there. Our biggest problem was never Olivia Jensen. Even without Olivia Jensen, there would have been many other women around him. He would still have mistreated me for them. Robert Davis would never remember that I was his wife. Putting on this hypocritical act now only made me feel more nauseous. I suddenly received a call from Professor Thompson. She told me she had cancer and wanted to see me one last time before she passed away. I returned to the States. As I stepped out of the airport, a voice I hadn't heard in a long time sounded behind me. Sarah, you finally came back. I was surprised by Robert Davis's appearance. The Robert Davis of the past was meticulous, not allowing a single speck of dust on his clothes. But the man before me now had half-white hair, an aged face, and his clothes were stained with mud. Tears streamed from his eyes, filled with love for me. Sarah, I've personally punished that wretched woman, Olivia Jensen, who stirred up trouble between us. Please, come home with me. We can go back to how we used to be. I sneered. Robert Davis, I can't go with you. I only came back to see my music professor. Please don't bother me. Robert Davis held tightly onto the hem of my clothes, sounding a little wronged. Sarah, why are you always so stubborn? If you hadn't been so determined, I wouldn't have grown to dislike you back then. You loved piano and wanted to be a shining star, but I was just a poor kid back then. How could I be worthy of someone like you? They said I built my fortune by relying on a woman, but I have my own strong abilities. Sarah, did you ever consider how I felt back then? My mind suddenly went completely blank. So that's what Robert Davis thought of me. Although my family wasn't wealthy, young Robert Davis came from a poor background. At that time, Robert Davis proposed the idea of starting a business. He told me he had no money, but I wanted to help him realize his entrepreneurial dream. I had always believed in the young man he was. To earn money, I participated in many piano competitions during that time, even performing in short skirts in the cold winter for the upper class. I could only silently endure others taking advantage of me. At that time, I was somewhat well known in the piano world. Some people said I could be bought. The underlying meaning of those words made me even more sickened. But I still managed to gather $100,000, which I gave to Robert Davis as startup capital. At that time, Robert Davis promised me, Sarah, I will definitely treat you well in the future. But I never expected that Robert Davis had actually been thinking of me like this all along. My heart felt as if it had been pricked by a needle. I looked at Robert Davis and felt like he was a stranger. Robert Davis, since you think of me that way, I don't think we have anything to talk about. I turned to leave, but Robert Davis grabbed my hand again, panicking. Sarah, I just said those things because I was too emotional. Don't take it to heart. Sarah, I know I was wrong. All I want now is for you to come home with me. I shook off Robert Davis's hand and scoffed. Robert Davis, you were the one who kept trying to drive me away. Throwing me out of the car on New Year's Eve and sending Olivia Jensen $1 million fireworks, never accompanying me to a prenatal appointment, kicking me out the door and watching me suffocate from an allergy, breaking my piano-playing hand, that was all you, Robert Davis. Robert Davis, do you know why I terminated the pregnancy? It's because of all the things you did. You're just like my father, unfit to be a father. Robert Davis knew that my father had cheated with a mistress and had been physically and verbally abusive to my mother and me since I was a child. My childhood was overshadowed by the trauma of having such a father. A father who didn't love me made me introverted from a young age. At least my child shouldn't suffer like that. Robert Davis looked at me, seeming to recall the things he had inflicted upon me. He shed tears of remorse and slapped himself hard. Sarah, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I was truly a monster back then. Sarah, hit me back, okay? As long as you forgive me, you can hit me however you want. I'll definitely learn to be a good father in the future. I'll love our child very, very much. Robert Davis knelt on the ground, trying to play the victim to gain some sympathy from me. But in the past, he had many chances to keep me. Now, I wouldn't soften towards Robert Davis. I looked at him and gave a cold laugh. Robert Davis, a scumbag like you doesn't deserve my forgiveness. After I left that day, Robert Davis didn't follow me. Watching his trembling, crying figure disappear behind me, I suddenly felt a sense of release. The person who once loved him was also deeply hurt by him like this. But what Robert Davis was enduring was far less than 1/10 of the pain I experienced back then. After visiting Professor Thompson, I went to the small house I had bought years ago. Inside was the piano my mother had bought me. I had hired cleaners to tidy up every month, but I was still surprised to see it spotless. I opened the piano and played a few notes. The tone was unexpectedly good. After sending the piano to the piano shop for repair, I hadn't had time to touch it again. I sat at the piano and played my mother's favorite song. As soon as I finished, there was a soft applause behind me. I turned around instinctively and saw Robert Davis. Robert Davis's expression immediately panicked. "Sarah, I just wanted to quietly watch over you. I fixed the piano your mother bought you. I clean this house every day. Sarah, I've really been waiting for you to come back." Looking at the clean house, I instantly understood why it was so tidy. Robert Davis had been cleaning it. He looked at me with hopeful eyes, wanting my praise. A cold wind blew, and my hand cramped. Robert Davis immediately grabbed my hand, concerned. "Sarah, what's wrong?" I pulled my hand back and looked at Robert Davis with a cold smile. "You have yourself to thank for this." Robert Davis looked at me guiltily, disbelief in his eyes. "You broke my hand for Olivia Jensen back then. Every winter, when there's a cold wind, my hand aches with bone-deep pain. In those years abroad, sometimes the pain was so bad I felt like dying. The doctor told me that if I insisted on playing the piano, my hand might become permanently disabled." Robert Davis held my hand, and scalding tears dripped onto the back of it. "Sarah, I'm sorry. It's all Olivia Jensen's fault. If it weren't for her, there wouldn't be so many problems between us." I sneered. "Robert Davis, you were always the one hurting me. Olivia Jensen was just an excuse for you to hurt me." Robert Davis cried even harder. "Sarah, I know I wronged you. Just give me one last chance. I couldn't stay here any longer. After seeing Professor Thompson, I should go back. Besides, I knew if I stayed here, Robert Davis would continue to harass me. Now, I just wanted a peaceful life. Seeing Robert Davis would only bring back more painful memories. I hailed a taxi to the airport. Suddenly, a car sped towards me. I had no time to dodge. Someone behind me pushed me away. When I turned back, the person who saved me was hit by the car and thrown about 15 feet away. The ground was covered in his blood. I walked over trembling. It was Robert Davis. Before closing his eyes, covered in blood, he smiled at me. "Sarah, will you forgive me?" The driver of the car was Olivia Jensen. She was covered in injuries, her hair messy, her eyes filled with hatred for me. "Sarah, why didn't you just die? If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be in this state, my family ruined. That jerk Robert Davis drove you away, and now he's pretending to be deeply in love. Do you think Robert Davis loves you? If he really loved you, he wouldn't have cheated." Looking at the crazed Olivia Jensen, I walked straight up and slapped her. "He's the main culprit, but you knew he had a wife and family, yet you still chose to be the other woman. Mistresses never have a good ending." In the end, Olivia Jensen was sentenced to 5 years for attempted murder. Because Robert Davis was in a car accident, I had to stay at the hospital to look after him. His family had passed away over the years, and now I was the only one who could care for him. After learning he had only broken his legs and wasn't in critical danger, I left resolutely. 10 years later, I settled back in the States and coincidentally met Robert Davis's friend. He told me Robert Davis had entered a monastery. After Olivia Jensen was released from prison, Robert Davis tormented her until she died in a winter. It was New Year's Eve again. I climbed up to a quiet retreat and prayed to God to bless my unborn child, wishing he could be born into a loving family with parents who adored him. The New Year's Eve bells chimed, and the sky was filled with bright and spectacular fireworks. I looked up, tears falling. In a corner of the retreat, a monk watched the sky full of fireworks, his hands clasped together. "May my Sarah have peace and joy every year."